Hey guys, so if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that my channel used to be almost exclusively about active hurricanes and other tropical systems around the world. Well, I probably won't be doing nearly as much this time around because diversity. That does bring up the question, how has hurricane season went while I was on hiatus? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. But before we get into that, I'd appreciate you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay tuned for future content. Okay, so just to clarify, even though the Atlantic is the most well-known basin that produces hurricanes and the like, I'll also be focusing on the Eastern Pacific, since hurricanes in that area can also impact the United States and Mexico. With that out of the way, what's happened? Well, not a ton, to be honest. Largely because June and July are not exactly the most active months for hurricanes and tropical storms. However, each basin has had 5 named storms so far, with one strengthening into a hurricane. Both hurricane seasons actually started earlier than normal, with the first Atlantic storm, Ana, forming about 10 days early, and the first Pacific storm, Andres, forming about a week early. In fact, Andres actually set a record for the earliest formation of a named storm on record in the Eastern Pacific. Though said record was only beaten by 1 day, and even that storm isn't the earliest a tropical system has formed in the basin, with that honor going to a tropical depression that formed in late April 2020. On the Atlantic side of things, there's actually talks of moving the start date of hurricane season from June 1st to May 15th, since this year is the 7th year in a row that a named storm has formed in May or earlier. Okay, but enough about really early starts to the season. What's happened since then? Well, in the Pacific, the first 3 storms were weak tropical storms that tracked out to sea and didn't really do anything. The last 2 storms, Dolores and Enrique, however, have had more of an impact. Not only have they been the strongest of the season so far, with Enrique actually becoming a decent Category 1 hurricane, but they've made landfall on the Mexican coast, dumping heavy rain in the impacted areas. Enrique's remnant moisture actually made it into the desert southwest, helping to kickstart their monsoon season, something I'll surely talk about in the next few weeks. Meanwhile, the Atlantic has also had some storms impact land. While the first 2 storms, Ana and Bill, largely stayed out to sea, the following 2 storms, Claudette and Danny, have made landfall in the US and subsequently dropped heavy rain over a region that is already soaked from earlier spring rains, which, if you know anything about saturated soils and flooding, is not good. Danny was actually a last-minute formation. It made landfall in a matter of hours after attaining named storm status, similar to Imelda in 2019 and Bertha in 2020. The latter of which made landfall in a very similar area to Danny. As for the most recent storm, Elsa, it just strengthened into a hurricane last night, and is forecast to drop heavy rain and winds across not only the Caribbean islands, but potentially Florida over the next week or so. And yes, Elsa has the same name as a certain Disney princess. Get used to it. So, what can we expect going forward? Well, despite the Eastern Pacific being much more active this year than it was at this time last year, current forecasts are showing for it to have a near or slightly below normal hurricane season. The Atlantic, on the other hand, is forecast to have another above average hurricane season, though it almost certainly won't be as frenetic as last year. No matter what basin you live in, however, it's always best to have a hurricane preparedness plan if you live on or close to the coast. Remember, even weak tropical storms can still cause large amounts of destruction if the conditions are right. Alright, that's it for this video on what's happened in the 2021 hurricane season. As always, I'd appreciate like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay tuned for future content. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.